Today, we're going to be doing something a little bit different and bringing you a live one-on-one coaching call with my sweet client. We are chatting blood sugar, adrenal fatigue, and skin struggles and tying that all together. I hope snippets of our conversation encourage and inspire you. Constanza initially reached out to me looking for safer skincare recommendations, and as I do with my clients, I asked her kind of what was going on with her health. She started describing things like having type 1 diabetes, insomnia, skin inflammation, a lot of redness in her skin, and just being really exhausted, even after a full night of sleep. So, once I got the details from her, I realized that really what was the underlying cause of all of this was adrenal fatigue. So, that's what we're going to be focusing on in our conversation today. Skin health is simply a reflection of what is going on inside the body. So, yes, while using safer products and topical solutions is really important and a key puzzle piece, we also have to look at nutrition and the foundations. Here's my conversation with Constanza. Hi, Constanza, and welcome. I'm so excited to get to chat with you today.
Thank you so much just for having me. I'm really excited that we can finally have a one-on-one chat.
I know we've been going back and forth on email, and you initially reached out to me, I think, looking for safer skincare recommendations, right?
Yes, I did.
So it's funny because any of my clients like you that work with me or anyone that looks for recommendations, I always have them like describe their skin more. And then I also ask like kind of what's going on in your health because your skin is simply a reflection of what is going on inside the body. So your skin is outside, your body is inside, and it's just a reflection. And so when you just kind of told me what was going on in your story, I was like, oh my gosh, I need to share. And I've had this idea for a while to do like one-on-one live consultations and share them with others because I know that like when we struggle with something, we're not the only ones struggling with that. So many other women can relate to a piece of your story, your whole story, whatever. And so I am really thankful you are willing to share yourself and your story with others.
No, thank you so much just for giving me the opportunity.
Yeah. Okay. So I just like have my notes over here. By the way, that's what I'm looking at. I always have notes whenever I talk to people just to make sure I'm hitting like the right facts. I do a lot of prep work. That's super important to me. So tell me first, just kind of a little bit about what is going on with your health right now.
I've honestly been it's been like a whole like roller coaster for the past year, maybe so more specifically. There was a lot of not being able to go see an endocrinologist, so that already like puts me at a bigger risk. I'm type 1 diabetic.
Yes.
So that's
Sadly.
yeah, so that's like one big thing. And then um, just I had a short-term pregnancy, and that just obviously with all that, the hormonal changes that had a huge effect just on my body, on my health, I think even more on my skin. And so just getting out of that slowly, I think has been a huge drastic change, and it's been a lot slower of a healing process than I thought. Um, I'm 27. It's not like I'm that much older, I feel, but I've always heard people say that once you're like in your more late 20s, your body does start changing. And so I'm like, okay, now I understand what everybody's like talking about to some extent. Um, and then, yeah, I think overall it's just been a lot of changes throughout, and my body having to catch up, and not knowing how to cope with that altogether.
So something I always like to point out, and this is not really talked about that much, is we think that like just the female body when we hit puberty, that kind of like high school period where everyone's like crazy teenage hormones, we think that's kind of the only portion where our hormones go a little bit crazy. And most women will experience another hormonal change between about 23 and 25. It could go anywhere up until like about 28. I experienced it right about 25. So you may have experienced it maybe 26, 27. I've had other friends who have been about like 28. So there's not like a hard and fast rule, but I just think it's interesting that we don't really talk about that much. We think that only hormone changes happen in like middle school and high school, but the body is constantly changing. And the interesting thing about the female body is we're changing every single day. Our hormones are changing every single day. So females typically will have more health issues when they're in kind of that childbearing years, just because of how much their hormones are changing. Whereas a man's hormones, they don't change every single day. They're much more steady. So that explains a lot of why females are the way we are. And that doesn't like mean a bad thing, mean we're better or worse. It just is really how God designed the body to work that way. So as far as your questions, I want to dive into one of your first questions and we can chat a little bit that you asked me because I loved this question. And okay, back up. I just want to say that first off, I am like so thankful that you reached out to me and you realized that you were struggling and you possibly needed help. And I think that that is the hardest part and a part that most women especially we don't like to ask for help. We think that we can do all the things and we are superwoman and not Captain America, what's the new
Captain Marvel?
my husband was watching it last night when I was on the phone. Captain Marvel. We think that we're that way. And so whenever people reach out to me, I'm like, yes, I'll help you, because most people just go through life thinking that the struggle is normal. And we get so used to functioning at this lower or negative level that we don't realize how much we can actually function at a level that's more up here. So I'm really proud of you. You've already done the hardest part, is just asking for help. So you got the hardest part girl. I'm excited. Okay, so your first question that you asked me was, as a type 1 diabetic yourself, what have you come to learn or see as certain triggers towards adrenal fatigue? Are there proactive steps we can take as type 1 diabetics to combat those symptoms before they start or get worse? I loved that question that you asked. And just kind of in talking with you over email, just for anyone who's watching with this, obviously I realized right off the bat that you have had a lot of changes, both physically, emotionally, and even physically due to moving. You mentioned you had moved. So we really want to focus on adrenal fatigue, and that in turn will help balance your hormones, your sleep, and you've had some issues sleeping, and then also your skin. That plays a big role. So that's kind of what we're going to focus on, is tying all of this together and how does what's going on internally relate to something external like the skin. So yes, as someone with type 1 diabetes, as someone with any blood sugar imbalances, or I would say like a lot of autoimmune diseases, you're going to be more prone to adrenal fatigue. And why is that? Because with an autoimmune disease or an underlying health issue, your body is having to work that much harder just to function every single day. And that's a huge stress on your body. Now, especially as someone with an autoimmune disease or blood sugar imbalances, the blood sugar and your adrenal system are directly related. So any blood sugar change can really affect how your adrenals function every day. So you and myself with type 1 diabetes, we have that double whammy of, okay, we have a blood sugar issue and an autoimmune disease. So your body is constantly working overtime. So I would say that, yes, you're going to be more prone to adrenal fatigue. Does that mean that you always have to suffer, or that you always have to live in a state of low energy, insomnia, etc.? No, not at all. We can definitely work to boost you. Like you said earlier, sometimes these things take way longer than we expected, and it's really frustrating. I've been really frustrated recently just with my health. I'm like 13 months postpartum now, and not where I was wanting to be like 2 years ago. But the thing is I personally think that slow healing sometimes is the best form of healing, because we really work through all those issues rather than just putting a quick fix or slapping a Band-Aid on the issues. So don't be afraid of slow healing. I'm a big fan of slow healing. So Proactive steps you can take as a type 1 diabetic or anyone dealing with adrenal fatigue is consistency. So, stress, which directly affects adrenal fatigue, stress is any change. So, you getting on a plane or driving somewhere and going on a tropical beach vacation, your body is viewing that as stress, even though you think that's a positive thing. So, I think sometimes we think that the definition of stress is something negative, and stress is just really any form of change. Um, and so as much as you can do to have consistent routines, particularly when it comes to sleep and eating, that is going to be really your best ally and your greatest friend, because your body loves those like natural rhythms. That's how the body was set up to work. So coming up with a realistic plan for you to implement when it comes to eating and sleeping is going to be really important. Now, this might mean that you get in bed every night at 9 o'clock, you wind down for 30 minutes, and then you can't fall asleep and you just lay there, but like putting yourself in that environment and setting yourself up for that success. And there's a lot we can do too to help you get better sleep. But just at least making the habit of getting into that routine, even if you don't fall asleep right away, that's key. The other thing is with eating, a lot of times it's like, people say, oh, I'm not hungry. And then, an hour or 2 or 3 later, you get hangry and you have that blood sugar crash, and it just sets you up for disaster. So even if you are not hungry, trying to stay on a more consistent eating routine, even if you eat something that's a little bit less, that's going to keep your blood sugar stable, your cortisol stable, and that's really going to affect everything in a positive way. So that's kind of my first little tidbit for you. My second, I know we've talked a little bit over email with this, is you have a lot going on. Like any other woman nowadays, it seems like you wear many hats. But really getting clear on what your yes and your no list is. So what are the things you're saying yes to, and what are the things you're saying no to? And sometimes that's really difficult to define. And sometimes that'll even change in seasons. I always say a no doesn't always mean no, it just means no right now. And so that is a big piece of encouragement, because again, when we're running around trying to do all these different things, that again spikes our cortisol, and puts us in that constant stress state, which we want to try to remove your body from to keep your blood sugar stable and your adrenal gland stable. And then another thing, and I don't really like this word triggers, but I always like to say, I don't know if a better really way to describe it, but like figure out what kind of triggers you stress wise. So for example, I'm really triggered, and I've talked about this before, by anyone that like yells, even if they're not yelling at me. If someone, like the other day I went to pick up my meal and this mom was yelling at her children, and I just like shut down. And usually something that triggers you is going to correlate to something in your past. And that's definitely true for me. So that really like affects me, people. And I'm not trying to say like anything against people that use bad language or that yell or anything like that, but I just know personally that I have to like stay away from that. I have to 100% like stay away from that. And obviously you can't always, like when you go to the post office or you're getting groceries and someone's yelling, like you can't always stay away from that. But I would encourage you to kind of think what triggers a stress response. And a stress response might not always be like what you think it is. Sometimes it's just like, for me, when I hear someone yelling, I just kind of shut down. I'm like, I can't function. And that's kind of what my response to it is. So again, a stress response can sometimes be a little different than we think it is. Does that kind of all make sense?
Yeah, I mean, I studied social work, so all this is like, yeah, I know this, but it's so hard to like apply to your own life
Uh-huh.
sometimes. But I mean, it all makes sense. Yes, it does. It totally makes sense that this is the kind of reaction that I'm having, like
Mhm.
both mentally and physically. So it's a great reminder.
It's always funny. I always say even nutritionists need their own nutritionist, and I have a nutritionist that I work with, and it's so funny because every time I'm on the phone with her, I'm like, "You say like the same things I tell all my people," but it's like we need someone to tell us that. And so,
Exactly.
if I can be that encouragement for you, or if someone else can be, that's totally okay. Sometimes when we're like in that field, it's hard for us to do those things that we know work. because we're so like
Mhm.
saturated with it all the time and we forget just to like simplify it in our own life. So
Yeah.
um, yeah, that's kind of my first step. Okay, other question is let's chat about skin and skincare because that was your like initial question. So tell me kind of what's going on with your skin. And obviously, we already talked about how the underlying issue is going to be stress and hormonal imbalances. And so I'm going to put together a protocol for you that is going to help that. And I always say like having good skincare items is a really great step, but it's not the only step. And I think sometimes we see something, we're like, oh, my skin looks like this. Let's provide another outside solution. But often we have to look inside. So tell me kind of what is going on with your skin.
Well, I'll tell you this. So before so I did order two of the recommendations that you had given me.
Yay! How
Um,
are those for you?
so I love them so much. It is so, it is so worth it. Like what you just said, products that work for you that might be a little bit more expensive, but then you see the outcome.
Mm,
I think it's been like, I think it's been over a month since I started using them, or right about a month.
yeah, I want to
Um,
say it's probably been like a month now.
yeah, but before all that, it was just really tight, dry, and I had like little patches of like red skin on my chin, on my forehead, and sometimes like even like on the sides of my cheeks. And I was always a person that never ever had any kind of skin outbreaks or um, no acne ever in my lifetime. And so this started when I was like 21, and it's kind of just kept coming back. And so when I started, just even the first time I used the products, I was like, what is going on? I feel like I'm 16 again. Um, and so that, even that, I think has changed my confidence.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I wear a little bit of lipstick every now and then because that's all I really do is just maybe like a little color on the lips and that's it. So um, the products have helped tremendously just lower down my redness, and they've just hydrated a lot of my skin. Um, so that part is amazing for me.
Isn't it
Um,
crazy how much like confidence can happen when like we feel good and we look good?
yeah, it's crazy. I mean, it's kind of all mental, I
Mhm.
think, um, pretty much. Yeah, it's like you look at yourself in the mirror, you see something that you're happy and proud, and
Mhm.
then that just like affects every part of like your thought for the rest of the day. So,
I think too, I love that you said like happy and proud because I think sometimes we think like if we're trying to work on our appearance, that is like prideful or superficial. But
mm,
I just think like being really proud of yourself. And sometimes that means you go through seasons where you're like, oh my gosh, what is going on with like the way I look? And then you can work through that and to just be proud of like where you've come from and how far what you've accomplished is really incredible.
mm-hmm, yeah. So,
So the redness and the dry patches. So that would be again a sign of more like internal inflammation. For dry skin, I always recommend to really increase your intake of like healthy fats. So things like grass-fed butter, macadamia nuts, olive oil, avocados, avocado oil, nuts and seeds. Good quality cream, fatty fish, anything like that. That's really going to help with that dryness. Again, also topical solutions are also really going to work. Did you get the brightening oil?
what was it? I think it was the oil number 3.
Okay, so you got the balancing oil. Yeah, yeah, that's right. The
Yeah.
balancing oil. That one's amazing.
Mm,
Balancing and the brightening are my favorites. So that that also will really help. But I would recommend increasing your intake in healthy fats. And then the redness again is going to be a sign of inflammation, and inflammation is another form of stress within the body. So inflammation also that can come from the foods you eat, different things like that. But I know from talking to you that I don't really think that's an issue. You seem to eat pretty healthy. So
I
um,
do my best.
any way you can increase your intake in healthy fats is going to be really great, not only for your skin, but also for your hormones. That's one of the best things you can do for your hormones. It's also really going to help with your blood sugar too. So that would be another nutritional recommendation I would incorporate. And even if you think you're like, gosh, Carolyn, I'm already eating so many healthy fats. When I was really working through my hormone issues after I had a miscarriage, I was eating butter like it was going out of style. Like people would have been shocked, and just like olive oil and all the healthy fats. So as women, we definitely need a lot of healthy fats. So I would really recommend increasing those.
Okay. No, I mean, I just hadn't heard of that. Like, they tell you to consume, not canola oil, but olive oil and all those things. And so it's hearing that is something new actually for me, like a learning piece to increase healthier fats.
So there's a lot of reasons why, but one of the reasons is if you think about it from like a fundamental perspective, your body, your physical body, obviously there's an emotional part too, but your physical body is made up of cells. And all those cells comprise muscles, tissues, organs, and then eventually you. So in the cell membrane, there is a double layer. It's called a phospholipid bilayer. And so that cell membrane is composed of fat. And so kind of think about it like if you got a birthday present and it was wrapped in a really pretty package, like that makes a difference, right? How it's wrapped. And so that's kind of the same thing with your cells. And so that is how your cell membrane controls what gets in the cell, what nutrients get in, what waste get out. And so healthy cells are a fundamental component of your entire health. So that's just one of the many reasons why increasing your intake in good quality, healthy fats, and then avoiding, obviously, the canola oil, hydrogenated oils, different things like that is going to be really important for you. Interesting. So yeah, those are kind of the main points. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put together my adrenal fatigue protocol for you. And then I'm also going to tweak that and include a little bit for liver because liver is a key component to balancing hormones. And so we really want to help you balance your hormones just with everything that you've been through. So liver and adrenal are the two key components for hormones. And I think that once we get all those kind of three things, liver, adrenal, and hormones balanced, I think your skin will see really big results. So I'm going to put that together, send that to you. My other recommendations as far as skincare, I know we talked about that. My initial recommendations are the balancing oil like you started with. Did you get the cleansing balm too?
Yes.
Amazing.
And I love it.
It's seriously so amazing. I'm like, everyone just needs to try it because then they'll understand why we're all so obsessed.
Yes, I even put it like on my partner, and he's a guy. He doesn't care about skincare and all that. And I put it on him like once, and then he's like, "Oh my gosh, my skin is so." He was completely like dazed over it. So even
he needs to try is the Counterman exfoliating cleanser. It's amazing. My husband's like, you need to keep that stocked. Like, why am I running out? I used it the other day because I really like how men's products smell. And he was like, he saw me using it. Why are you using my stuff?
I think I remember that from one of your posts. So that was really funny.
So so the balancing and then the cleansing balm. Another one that I think would be really good for you is the overnight resurfacing peel. And that's just going to help exfoliate that extra layer of skin, which is going to help cell regrowth, rejuvenation, and just leave you with really glowing, soft, just kind of smooth skin. I've really noticed that it smooths out and evens out my complexion. Another recommendation for you is going to be the Primarily Pure Everything spray, and I'll include a link for all those for anyone that's watching. But what that does, that's going to be like a toning spray, and that's going to help balance out your skin's pH levels. And so that's also going to help with redness, splotchy, anything like that. What other recommendations? Okay, the other recommendation I wanted to encourage you, especially as someone with blood sugar issues, is a bedtime snack. Is this something you're already doing?
It's, I'm good about it some years, not so good other years. So,
So I want you to start eating a bedtime snack. This is not meant to be a meal or like even half of a meal, just a few bites, a handful of something. Um, but try to do something that's high in protein and fat. And so what that's going to do is that's going to stabilize your blood sugar throughout the night. And oftentimes we wake up in the middle of the night due to blood sugar imbalances. Another reason why we wake up in the middle of the night is due to liver congestion because the liver cleanses in the middle of the night. So that could be another thing, or something that might prevent you from going to sleep is imbalances in those. Usually, it's adrenal fatigue that prevents you from going to sleep. But if you're waking up in the middle of the night, usually blood sugar and liver are the two things we want to look at. So I want you to start incorporating a nighttime snack that could be like a spoonful of nut butter, coconut butter, a few slices of like raw organic cheese, a few handfuls of yogurt, just anything like that. I usually do like a nut or coconut butter. But yeah, those are my top tips for you, and then I will include my other recommendations for you as well. Wasn't that great? She was so sweet to let me record and share our conversation together with you all. She said, if my story can help just one person, then I'm totally okay with that. After we ended our recording, she asked me a little bit more about realistically how long true healing would take. And I said, everyone's different. Person to person, some people can take a few months, other people it could take a year. But the body really does want to heal. And so just keep doing those little simple steps and being faithful and watching that all add up. So I hope you enjoyed our conversation together. If you like these one-on-one coaching calls, leave a comment below and tell me what other topics you'd like us to talk about. Hit subscribe and we will see you next time.